So live and learn, right? Live and learn. Like I said, this is my first time hosting a Zoom webinar. So, dun-dun-dun-dun. All right. Just check, hang on a second, make sure everything's working correctly before we get started here. Okay, good. Looks like we are live. Yes, there we go. Good. Fantastic. So let's come back here to the video. Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Bailey. So we are starting this webinar for the second time. So for those of you who were watching on Zoom, we've already started, but I just realized we weren't live streaming. So we started that now. So more people will be joining us here through Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. So hello, everybody. Welcome. One more time, let me just give you a quick, to show you how you can participate. So, like I said, here we have the davebailey.me/go/Zoom. If you are watching this live right now on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, anywhere else, and you want to interact with us live through the microphones, you can go to this link and join us on Zoom to talk and chat. I'm going to be reading a short story that I wrote. We can discuss it. And also, if you are learning English, I can help you practice your English. Okay. So davebailey.me/go/Zoom to interact with us live on Zoom. You can interact with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope through text, but on Zoom, you can interact with your microphone. All right. And this is the story that we're going to be working on tonight, davebailey.me/go/story. So that will redirect you. And this is where we are focused on. Okay, so let's do a new share. Let me share the screen that we're going to be working on the story. Here we go. This is the short story called What Goes Around Comes Around. All right. This is part of my Edge of the Universe series. This is a series of short stories that I'm writing set in a science fiction / fantasy kind of universe. And I'm writing a lot of short stories. Number one, to do character sketches, find out where the story is going. And number two, so that I can help you improve your English. All right. So I throw in a lot of vocabulary words and also various expressions to help you with your English. Words that I know that my English students would normally have trouble with. Okay. Any questions? If you have questions, hello, Wilson. Wilson Faustino says, good evening. All right, Wilson, hello, hello. Let's just jump over here so I can show you Wilson and answer him real quick. Hello. All right, so we're blasting that out to YouTube, Facebook, 3 different Facebook pages, and our YouTube page. Great. Hello, Wilson, and everybody else who is out there watching. Okay, so I'm going to start reading this story. Like I said, remember, you can watch the video. The video is me reading the story later. Don't worry about listening to it there now, but after our live is over, you can listen to it there, or you can click here and listen to it on SoundCloud, and you can actually download. Whoops, sorry guys, hang on. I am showing you the wrong screen here. Let me get back to the right screen. Boom, boom. All right. Sorry about that. I thought you were seeing my screen and you weren't. You're still seeing the screen with Wilson. Okay, here we are. Okay, so this is where the story is. You can listen to it on SoundCloud and you can download with your with this link here, you can download the MP3 file to listen to. And if you click here on this link, you can watch the video, which is the audio with the text included of me reading it. Okay, Wilson asks, where are you from? Where are you from? I am from Brazil, Wilson. Or actually, I am in Brazil right now. I was born in Orlando, Florida, but currently I am in Brazil. Okay, great. So there you go. This is the video screen, so you can watch the video here, and the text is all down below here. And then you can also download the MP3 file here. Good? Any questions? All right, let me just answer Wilson here. I am in Brazil. Good, good. Good questions, Wilson. Okay, where are you from, Wilson? Where are you from? And how long have you been learning English? Okay, so there you guys go. You've seen the story here. You've seen the video you can watch, and you've seen where you can download the audio file for you to listen to later. Let me give you some background here about the story. Why are stories important? Two reasons, actually. Two reasons. See where I am on the screen. Stories are really good for reading if you enjoy reading fiction, but for English students, stories are very important to help you learn new vocabulary. All right. So the number one reason you want to read stories is because it will help you improve your vocabulary. Okay. So it'll increase your vocabulary actually as you read and learn new vocabulary in your story. You will learn many of the words, assimilate them through the context, and others that you don't know through the context, you can look up in your dictionary. So Wilson's asking, I have to read that text. Wilson, we are going to read it together. So I posted that yesterday to give everybody time to read it. If you haven't read it yet, don't worry, because we're going to read it now together. Okay, so I'll read it together with you. I will answer questions that you have about the text. I will ask you questions so that you can answer them, practice your English. And also, if you have questions about the meanings of the vocabulary words, if you have questions about the grammar structures, about the pronunciation, we will help you with that as well. All right, so Wilson says, I live in Bahia, Brazil. Awesome, Wilson. Fantastic. Bahia, Brazil. Very, very good. I've never been to Bahia, but I hear there are many nice beaches there. All right, so back to our story. Reading is important because number one, it'll help you increase your vocabulary. Number two, you will learn how the words are used in the sentence structures, right? Which is grammar. So you will learn how to structure in sentence structures. You will learn how to structure your sentences. And number three, with the audio that we've provided with the video in the audio file, the MP3 file, you can practice your pronunciation. Okay, I'm going to write some of this stuff out here just so you can refer to that and see that later. Okay, any questions there? So reading is very important. I work with a lot of students who are beginners, and it's easy for beginner students to learn new vocabulary words because everything they see, they learn a lot of new words. But once students get to the intermediate level, they get a little bit frustrated because they feel like, I'll come back to the video here, they feel like they aren't learning new words. They feel like they're stagnating. And one of the best ways to increase your vocabulary and take your language, English, to the next level is by reading. Okay, so reading is very important, especially with the audio. You can do this through podcasts, through audiobooks, through mini stories like we're doing now, through the Bible, through music, through the movies with the subtitles, lots of different ways that you can improve your English using text and audio like we're doing now. So this is great. So that's what I tell my students. Hello, Himcat. Himcat Querji. How are you? All right. Welcome, welcome. So we're talking about how to use short stories to improve your English. All right, Georgie. Hey, Georgie. How you doing? Hello, George. George is from Sorocaba. Sorocaba is a great city. I know many people who live there. So great place. Fantastic. So let's just jump back over here into the, let's see where I'm at. Turn on my, there we go. So that way I can show you back on the screen again. Hang on, bear with me, guys. This is the first webcast that I'm hosting, so I'm still learning here. Let me share the screen here just so we can see how everybody's doing. All right, so Himcat says hello. I'm doing great, Himcat. How about you? How are you? And George says he's from Sorocaba. So, all right, great, guys. Glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. So, different ways. Why are stories important for your English? You learn new vocabulary, number one. Number two, you see how the words are used in the sentence structures because the structures in English are different from your mother tongue. And also because with the audio, you can learn how to pronounce the words correctly and you can practice all four skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, right? So take the story that I provided here. Later, you can go through and read that. You can learn the words, the expressions. I'll show you some now, but I'm sure you'll see more later. You can listen to the audio. You can practice writing it, transcribing, listen to the audio and write, and then go back and correct what you wrote, see where you're making mistakes so you can correct those, which is very important for improving your English. And then number four, you can speak. You can go out and retell the story to someone else or talk with someone else. All right. So that's why these stories are important for you. So just remember, everybody who's out there on Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope, you can join us here at davebailey.me/go/Zoom to interact with us live through your microphone. If you have a microphone, you can talk with me. And if you go to davebailey.me/go/story, you will see the story that we are focused on and using right now. Okay, so that story is this one right here that you see on your screen. And this is what we are going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and read the story now for you. If you guys have questions about what the words mean, feel free to ask. Okay, so here we go. I'll highlight the text that I'm reading to make it easier. Let me actually make my screen bigger. So I think that'll help you see. Can you see better? Can you guys see my screen better? Let me just hang on just 1 second. Let me pull part of this up so I can keep an eye on the chat as we are. Great, fantastic. Himcat Gurji says he's doing great. And George says you're formidable. Thank you, George. I will take that as a compliment. Okay, so here's the story. What goes around? It's an audio short story. You can see the picture here. Our main character is a woman named Jenny. Let me give you a little bit of background about the story. Okay, a little bit of background about what's going on here in this story. Jenny is a programmer, and she has been working on a top secret government project, right? She's working on developing clones. And there's a lot that goes on in Jenny's backstory. I'm still writing that and working it all out. But basically, she's developing clones, and General Bart, who's a very bad man, very manipulative, he manipulates her and in the process causes an accident where the person that she loves dies. So she becomes very angry and vengeful. And General Bart, he hijacks her project. All right. So he takes over someone else's body to imitate the president, and he wants to run the country, and he locks her up. So it's a science fiction story, and we are talking about clones. All right. So she develops a process after all this happens to transfer her mind into General Bart's body. It can get kind of confusing. So it's a complicated context here if you aren't paying attention, right? But that's what's going on, just to give you some background in the story. So now let's go ahead and I will show you back on the screen the story so we can read along together. All right, so here we go. What goes around? And we are starting now. I will read each sentence. If anybody wants to join me live in Zoom and you want to participate, you want to read the phrases so I can correct your pronunciation, or you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and let me know, okay? I can give you controls so that you can speak. You can even show yourself on the camera if you want, if you're brave and courageous and formidable, right? George, all right. Wilson says he's fine. Great, Wilson. Congratulations. And Himcat says that learning English is an effective way to learn. That is correct, Himcat. Very good. So you can see here, right here, learning English from stories is a very effective way to learn. That is correct. It is a great way to learn, especially for students who go beyond the basics and into the intermediate level. For speaking, very important. Why? Because as a student, you hear the story, you see how it's written, you learn the words, and you speak it, you retell the story yourself. So it's a great, great, great way to learn English. It's a method I've been using. I've been teaching for about 20 years, but I probably started using stories, let's see, about 17 years now. So I really like it. It's very effective for students who want to develop their speaking. If you understand English, but you have trouble speaking, it's a great way to get to that next level. Stories give you a framework, per se, so that you can learn to speak and express yourself. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start reading. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. I'll read a paragraph and I'll answer questions. Okay, so I'll answer your questions, explain words at the end of each paragraph. And then I'll go back through and reread the whole thing at the very end. Okay. The smoke still wafted from the barrel of the gun in his hands. The sound of the shot hadn't yet reached her ears. Maybe it was the shock of getting shot that blocked out the sound. Okay, any questions about any of those words? If you do, fire away. Let's take a look at this word, wafted. You guys know what wafted means? Let's use our built-in handy dandy dictionary here, Grammarly. I use it to correct all my mistakes because I write a lot and I make a lot of mistakes. And Grammarly is very good for correcting, especially when I'm writing fast. It means to float easily or gently through the air, to move or pass, to give notice. No, not that. Just our expression here, wafted. The smoke wafted. Want to see? Let's look. Waft. We will look at some images here on Google, see if we find a picture of something wafting. Here we go. Okay, you see a cup of coffee. I think it's coffee anyways, because I like coffee. Maybe it's tea. For some reason, it doesn't want to show us the picture, a large picture. But anyways, you can see that there on your screen. There's a cup of coffee, a mug of something hot, and this is the smoke wafting up. So in our story, the gun was shot and the smoke was wafting. The smoke was floating out of the barrel. Okay, no questions yet, so I'm going to read the next paragraph. Remember that later you can download the audio and listen to it nonstop without me interrupting you or talking about the meanings of the words. So you have both the video and the audio there here. So now's your time to ask questions and we can talk about this. Remember, if you join us on Zoom, you can interact, participate with me. I can let you read the sentences and we can help you correct your pronunciation if you want help with your pronunciation as well. Okay. So here we go. Reading the next paragraph. Jenny looked down at the small hole in her shirt, right? So the gun was shot, the bullet went off and it hit her in her side. Quickly turning red as the life-giving fluid seeped from her body. She reached down and touched it lightly, still not feeling anything. Surreal, almost as if she were in a dream. Right? Any questions about these words here? If you have any questions, feel free to ask. So the gun was shot, the bullet hit her in the side, and now it's bleeding. Her shirt is turning red, right? So red is the color. She reached down, she touches it lightly, but she's in shock. She doesn't understand what's going on. She still doesn't feel anything. It feels surreal, almost like she were in a dream. Okay, Himkat Kurji is asking, says surreal. You want to know what surreal means? Okay, so the word surreal means resembling a dream, fantastic and incongruous. All right, so if something seems surreal, it seems like you're in a dream. It seems like it's not real. Oh, look, now that we don't need it anymore, our picture of the mug comes up. So let's look for a picture of something surreal. There are some famous artists who, okay, here is a surreal art, right? So these images that are surreal, they seem dreamlike, they seem strange, they're not normal, not based in reality. All right, so what was the name of that artist? I forget his name, the guy that drew all these surreal artists. It starts with an S. What's his name? Let's go back to all to define surreal, having the qualities of surrealism, bizarre. Okay, so surreal means bizarre, strange, dreamlike. Let's take a look. Surrealist artist. His name is on the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember the name of, there we go, Salvador Dali. I knew it started with an S. I just couldn't remember it. So Salvador Dali was an artist who painted surrealist pictures, dreamlike art, right? So most of these images that we're seeing here are probably Salvador Dali pictures. All right, let's take a look here at questions, see if there's anything else. So, all right, Himkat Kurji, Surreal, Ramazan Kaplan. Hello, David. Your stories are great. Great. Thank you, Ramazan. I appreciate your kind words. Very nice. Let's go back to our story here. Let's go back to reading the next paragraph of our story. Remember, if you guys have questions, keep asking your questions. Later, you can listen to the story on the video. You can also download the audio here, right? The MP3. So now is your time to ask questions while we are doing this live. And if you join us here on Zoom, you can interact with me as well. You can ask questions. Let me add some text right here. This is where you can go. davebailey.me/go/Zoom. And you can join us right here on Zoom to interact with me live on the microphones. Okay? So let's, whoops, that's not what I wanted. How do we get rid of that? There we go. All right, there we go. Now I just have to find my place. Okay, Himkat Kurji asks how to get the story. Good question, Himkat. Let me show you. I'll just go ahead and type the story right here. Same place, davebailey.me/go/story, and that will take you to the story. Okay, so if you go to /go/story, that will take you to the page that I'm reading from right now. And if you go to /go/Zoom, that will take you to the Zoom webinar where you can interact with me live using your microphone. Good. Okay. So continuing on here. Paragraph 3. This is the paragraph we're going to be reading now. She looked back up into the eyes of General Bart, now using President Kent's body. Remember, I said they were creating clones. So General Bart transferred himself into President Kent's body, the President of the United States of America, and now he is controlling, acting like the president, even though the president is kidnapped back at the warehouse where they were doing the project. Remember, this is science fiction, okay? So I have a very fertile imagination. Just a fun story. So, just so you understand what's going on. Second sentence here, she cocked her head to the side. So she cocks her head to the side like she's trying to understand. His lips were moving. His lips were moving, but Jenny couldn't hear the words coming out of his mouth. Remember, she's still in shock. He shot her with a gun. The smoke is wafting from the barrel. She sees the hole in her side. It's bleeding, but she doesn't really understand it yet. She's in shock. So he's talking, but she doesn't really understand the words either. So she was trying to escape. He came around the corner and bam, shot her before she realized what was going on. Any questions about the words in this paragraph here? If not, we'll move on to the next one. It sounded like he was saying, what goes around comes around. What goes around comes around. And it's an expression in English. It's like, if you give it, you're going to take it. It's kind of like, if you reap something, you're going to sow it, right? So if you do something to someone else, it's going to come back and happen to you, right? So that is the meaning of this expression. Let's see if we find other good expressions What goes around comes around quotes. This should be fun here. Let's see what Google gives us. We have a bunch of quotes. Justin Timberlake song, What Goes Around Comes Around. Let's see what else. What does it mean when you say that what goes around comes around? Informal used to say that if someone treats other people badly, he or she will eventually be treated badly by someone else. You should not mistreat people badly. All right? So that's what the expression means. People are asking, what does what goes around comes around? Written by Justin Timberlake, but that's the song. Is what goes around comes around true? This is a good question. The assumption is captured in the popular saying, what goes around comes around, and in the much older proverb, as you sow, so shall you reap, right? Sowing is when you plant a seed, and reaping is when it grows and you collect the fruit from that plant. All right. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So there are no other questions that look interesting there. So let's continue on with the rest of our story. Any questions about any of those words or expressions there? Anybody want to add anything? All right, next section. Jenny had tried to shoot him earlier. Though she had missed, she looked back down at the wound in her side. Well, in General Bart's side, since she was using his body. That got confusing, didn't it? Okay. So Jenny had tried to shoot General Bart earlier, right? So that's why I'm saying what goes around comes around. You tried to shoot me. Now I'm going to try to shoot you because remember, she was working on the project. He hijacked the project. He took the president's body and he locked her up. So she transferred herself into General Bart's body and she escaped and she went after him and she's trying to stop his evil plan. So she tried to shoot him. She missed. She didn't hit him. And now he just shot her. So that's why I said what goes around comes around. So she looked back down at the hole in her side where she got shot. But it wasn't her side, remember, because now she's in General Bart's body, so it's actually his body. So that could be confusing. All right. Any questions? Next section here. The pain exploded in her side as she pressed her finger into the bullet hole to staunch the bleeding. The shock was wearing off and her senses were returning. Any questions about these words? So, right, she's in shock. She doesn't really hear. She's not really understanding what's going on. She's looking down at the bullet hole in her side and she touches it. And all of a sudden, she feels the pain and it explodes, right? She's like, oh, and she realizes how bad she is. The shock was wearing off and her senses were returning. Staunch. Do you guys know what staunch means? Let's go ahead and take a look at the word staunch. Actually, let's type define staunch. If you have questions about what a word means in English, type define and then the word staunch. Loyal and committed, but that's not the meaning we want. As a verb. Okay, here we go. Verb, to staunch, to stop or restrict a flow of blood from a wound. Stop the blood flow. So that's what Jenny is doing. She is staunching the bleeding. She's stopping the bleeding. Any questions? Okay, next paragraph here. Jenny screamed in anger in frustration at the sudden turn of events. All right. So she's all of a sudden she realizes, she becomes very angry and frustrated, and she screams. This hadn't gone down at all like she had expected after losing the element of surprise. So General Bart thought she was locked in the warehouse. She managed to jump into his body and escape, and she tried to get him by surprise, but she missed. He realized she was there, and now everything's going downhill. Poor Jenny. Her voice came out all wrong, thick and deep. Then she remembered that it wasn't her voice. Jenny was no longer in her own body. Her body is back in the lab. Her body lay back in the warehouse lab because now she is using General Bart's body. Remember with the whole clone thing? So this is like a big confusing mess. Imagine this is a movie. It would be pretty confusing, huh? Okay, Himcat Curdy says, well done. Thanks, Himcat. I know this story took me a long time to write. Not now. I had this idea a long time ago, but trying to figure out how to put all the pieces together was kind of like a puzzle, right? So it was really fun and interesting, and I had to think about it for a long time to kind of figure out how to put this together. I had a lot of different ideas, but I was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write this today, and I'm going to get it out. So this is what came up. Here we go. Next section. Uh-oh, sounds like the cat's loose. All right. General Bart had used her project to hijack the president's body and then locked her up till he needed her again. Right? So here was kind of where in the story you're getting this information. I already explained it to you before, but in this story, this is where we are explaining it. She had transferred herself into General Bart's body to escape and hunt the man down. So she escaped and she's hunting down General Bart to stop his evil plan. Any questions about any of these words? All right. If you have any questions, fire away. As soon as you see them, just type them in so that way we can discuss them. All right, continuing on. Next paragraph. And now she had been shot. Jenny would die. General Bart would get to rule the country in the president's body that he had hijacked, and no one would be the wiser. The only person who knows what General Bart has done is Jenny, right? Nobody else knows. So if she dies, he can do whatever he wants. And it would all be her fault. She's the one that created the project, developed it, and made it possible. The technology. All right, all right. Any questions? Any questions so far? If so, feel free to fire away. If there's no questions, I'll just keep right on reading here. Okay, next paragraph. Jenny looked up into the barrel of the gun and knew she had to do something fast. She analyzed the railing over the balcony just behind the general, 3 stories up. All right, any questions here? So she looks up into the barrel of the gun and she realizes she's dying. There's a bullet hole in her side. The general's going to kill her. And if she doesn't do something fast, it's all over. So what is Jenny going to do? Any questions? All right, we'll continue reading here. It would be painful, but as long as she didn't die in the fall, she might be able to pull this off. Uh-oh. What do you think Jenny is planning on doing? This doesn't sound very good. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. So she can't die on the way down. but as long as she can stay alive, she might be able to get out of this mess. It was her only choice. If she tried to transfer out now, he would simply call one of the soldiers back at the warehouse to locate her original body and put her down. So she's in General Bart's body. If she transfers back to her body, the general will still be there. He can just call one of his soldiers and tell them to go put her down. What does put her down mean? Do you know? Put down is a phrasal verb. Put down. When you put something down. Okay, there's several different meanings. Right here, look at number 3. Kill an animal because it is sick, injured, or old. So for example, you say, I put down my dog. My dog was sick. My dog was old. So I put him down. It means that you kill him. It's a merciful way to kill them so that they don't suffer. So put them down in this sense means that General Bart was going to have one of his soldiers kill Jenny. Any questions so far? Next paragraph. Let's see if we have any questions. All right, no questions here yet. Good. So you guys are keeping up. Fantastic. If you have any questions, just keep firing away. We'll keep answering them. All right, so next paragraph. Jenny raised her hand in front of the gun as if trying to say something and slowly stood up. All right, so Jenny raises her hand. She puts her hand in front of the general so he doesn't shoot her again. Right, he's standing right there. He's still got the gun in his hands, and he's going to kill her. So she puts up the gun to stop him, like she wants to talk with him and say something because they've worked together for a long time. They know each other. So she stands up, and the general took a step back and relaxed his stance as he waited. So he wants to hear what Jenny's going to say. So he backs up, he backs away, and he relaxes to wait to let her speak, right? He's not a bad guy. He's just kind of bad because he's implementing his evil plan, but he's not mean to Jenny. Not too mean. He's going to kill her. I guess he's mean. All right. That's confusing, right? Okay, next phrase here. He grinned that same stupid, arrogant grin that she hated, gloating that he had had the upper hand the entire time, right? So the general's kind of like, yeah, I've shot you. I've got the gun. There's nothing you can do. I'm going to kill you. So go ahead. Say what you want to say. He's grinning at her. He's gloating. You guys know the word gloat? To triumph, to crow, relish, glory, revel in. It's kind of like you're enjoying that moment. Gloat. All right. Any questions? No questions. We'll continue reading. Next paragraph here. But as soon as she had risen to her feet, Jenny threw herself at him. Right? So Jenny stands up and she throws herself at the general. Now remember, the general is a big man and he's in the president's body, so now he's smaller. She was a small woman, but now she transferred into his body, so she's a lot bigger than he is because now she's in his original body. So confusing, but just so you understand what's going on. The general's original body that she was now in was almost twice the size of the president's body that Bart now possessed. All right? So she's bigger and she hits him. She's going to move him, right? Next paragraph. Jenny hit him hard, and it wasn't even much of a struggle to push him over the railing. So what? They're 3 stories up, right? and she pushes him over the railing. And now what happens? They're both falling. Uh-oh, this doesn't sound good. But it's her only option because if she stays there, he's going to shoot her with a gun, right? So she's got to do something desperate. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Any questions? No questions yet so far. Let's read the next paragraph. They both fell through the air. They both fell through the air. A quick, short free fall, 3 stories down. So they're both, she knocks him over the railing, they fall over the balcony, and now they are falling. They're both falling. Jenny relaxed her body and tried to land upright to take the fall on her legs with a roll to the side to protect her head like she had learned to do in her parkour training classes. All right. Does anybody practice parkour, or have you ever done any gymnastics classes? So when you fall, they teach you to roll, right? You jump off a building, you jump across one wall to another, or out of a tree, you hit the ground and you roll. So that's what she tried to do. She was pretty high up, 3 stories. What do you think is going to happen? I don't know if too much rolling is going to help her. All right, let's read the next paragraph. But it didn't do much good. Jenny's legs snapped under her before she could get the roll in. Her body basically just flopped to the side. But she was alive, and that was all that mattered. Remember, she's in General Bart's body, and he's a big man. So when she tries to fall and roll, right, to escape, but she hits, her legs snap, she breaks her legs, and she falls to the side. But she's alive. That's what's important. She just needs to stay alive to get out of this mess. So what do you think she's going to do? What do you think that Jenny is going to do now? All right, any questions here? No questions yet, so let's continue on reading, right? I got to learn how to use these controls better here on Zoom, but bear with me. I'm learning. I think we're doing pretty good for our first hosted Zoom webinar, right? Are you guys enjoying it so far? I hope so. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. So, continuing on, next paragraph. General Bart lay there unconscious. Jenny just needed a way to contact Al for him to pull her out of the general's body. So she needs to contact someone to transfer out of General Bart's body and back into her body. How do you think she's going to do that? She needs to contact Al, whoever Al is. We haven't seen him yet in this short story. So she half rolled and half dragged herself over to paw through his pockets for his cell. All right, so Jenny drags herself, right? She's on the ground. She drags herself over to General Bart, and she's looking for his cell phone. So she needs to call Al to transfer herself back into her body. So she needs his cell phone. Any questions about any of these words? Paw. Let's see what paw means. That doesn't provide the meaning that we're looking for. Paw is the foot of an animal, but when we say paw through something, it means you're searching for it with your hands manually. So let's see if Google gives us pawed of a person. Yeah, okay. to touch or handle clumsily, right? So she's looking around trying to find his cell phone. So that's what you mean by the word paw. Paw through his pockets. It wasn't in his pants pocket, right? The cell phone wasn't there. And she goes, oh no, right? She needs a cell phone to call Al. Her legs are broken in this body. She needs to transfer out to her body. But where's the cell phone? Her heart froze for an instant, but she continued searching and felt it in the inside pocket of his coat. She sighed in relief and tugged it out. But when she looked at it, the screen was blank. All right. So she paws around, feeling for the cell phone in his pants pocket, doesn't find him. Her heart freezes, but then she keeps looking. He's got a suit coat on, and she finds it in the pocket of his suit coat. So she's right. She pulls it out, but the screen is blank. Maybe the battery went dead, or maybe in the fall, the cell phone got hit and isn't working. So, oh no, more problems for Jenny. All right, any questions? Not, we'll continue on here. Jenny groaned as she tried to turn it back on. It took a few seconds to respond, but the screen finally lit up. She sighed in relief. Right? So Jenny groaned. She's like, oh no, the cell phone's not working. What am I going to do? But it did respond after a few seconds. She tries to turn it on. It comes on. The screen lights up. She goes, whew. Just then, the general came to and lay there stunned for a brief second before he let out a spew of curses between the screams of pain and anger. So the general's unconscious. He falls down. He's unconscious. Suddenly he comes to, right? And he realizes what's going on, and he's very angry, and he starts screaming at Jenny. He's cursing and swearing, but she doesn't let that bother her. She continues doing what she needs to do. She dials a number and she calls her buddy Al. She rolls away from him so that he cannot take the phone from her. She says, yeah, it's me. Get me out of here and put the general back where he belongs. So she manages to talk to Al. She says, transfer me from the general's body and put me back in my body. And then put the general back in his body, right? Take him out of the president's body, the clone, and put him back in his own body. Any questions? All right, continuing on. General Bart froze for an instant as he realized what she was doing. All of a sudden, he's like, uh-oh, trouble's coming, right? Poor Bart. He knows what's coming already. He says, no. Oh, she says, sorry. She's the one speaking still. She's on the phone. She says, no, leave the president where he is. His body is too far gone. We'll have to make him a clone, right? So she tells her buddy Al, don't mess with the president, right? The president's body's there, but don't transfer the president back in his body because he's going to be confused. He won't know what's going on. And because of the fall, his body's probably broke his legs and has some kind of problems as well. So don't mess with the president. Leave him there. We'll create another clone body for him. And then we will transfer him back into a decent body where he won't be confused or angry with us because of all this messing around. All right. Next paragraph here. You can't do that to me, the general screamed at her. You can't put me back in that body. My legs are broken and I've been shot. Right? Uh-oh, now he realizes the trouble he's in. right? He's screaming at her. If she transfers him out of the president's body and puts him back in his body, the body she's in now, he's going to have the hole in his side and his legs are going to be broken, right? It's going to be pretty painful. Any questions about any of these words? Pronunciations? All right, next up. Jenny grinned painfully. You should have thought of that before shooting me. Well, I mean yourself, or whoever this body belongs to. This is so confusing, right? So Jenny says, right, what goes around comes around. He said it to her earlier. Now she's seeing it. Hey, you shot me. You should have thought of that before. So you shot me, but now that you're coming back into your body, this is, you shot yourself. So it's kind of confusing who this body belongs to, right? Any questions? You guys have any questions? Fire away here. Looks like we don't have any yet. So let's go back and we'll keep reading our story. Next paragraph. She closed her eyes and waited for Al to complete the transfer. Jenny grinned at the thought of General Bart waking back up in his own body, the one she had been using. Right? So she closed her eyes and relaxes. Now there's nothing else she can do. She just has to wait for Al to transfer her back into her body. So she imagines General Bart coming back into his. He's going to feel everything she's feeling now. And what happens? Jenny started to laugh, but it hurt too much. So General Bart asks, "What's so funny?" he growled. Jenny says, "Karma, baby. You reap what you sow. Literally, because you shot yourself. How's that for a taste of your own medicine?" All right, all right. There we go. Some great words, right? We talked about what goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. And the third phrase, karma, right? And then also fourth, a taste of your own medicine. So, do you know what all these expression means? Let's take a look here. A taste of your own medicine means that you created the medicine. Medicine usually tastes bad, right? Medicine doesn't taste good. We take it because we have to. So, if you taste your own medicine, you make the medicine and you don't care about the taste because you give it to other people. But when you get sick and you have to take your own medicine, then you don't like it so much. So when someone does something bad and then they get it back, they get a taste of their own medicine. Let's see what Google shows us about this expression. Taste of your own medicine. This will be interesting. Let's take a look at meaning. All right, so using the expression taste your own medicine to indicate that someone is sampling the same unpleasantness they've been dishing out to others. So they do bad stuff to other people, and now they're experiencing the same thing that's unpleasant. So I don't feel sorry at all that people are calling you names. You're getting a taste of your own medicine. Somebody's a bully, they go around calling people bad names. Then another bigger bully comes and calls them names. They get a taste of their own medicine. How does it feel to taste your own medicine? Should you give someone a taste of these? These are great questions. I love Google because of that. Da, da, da. All right. Taste of your own medicine idiom, English, taste of your own medicine. There's some great English videos here. So if you guys have questions or you want to hear more about these, make sure to check that out. Expression, a taste of your own medicine. Let's see what pops up in Google here. If we get some funny pictures, you can see someone who's probably mean and yells at others, and now he's being yelled at. Okay, great. So, any questions? Do you have any questions so far? And if not, we'll continue on. All right, here we go. We're coming up to the end here, guys. 2 more paragraphs. She felt a strange numbness wash over her. Jenny wasn't sure if this was from the transfer back to her original self or the sensation of death sweeping over her body, over the body she was now in. All right, so she feels numb. The numbness washes over her, it's coming down her body, and she's not sure if it's because she's transferring back to her own body or if because this body's been shot, it's starting to die, and that's why it's turning numb. She doesn't know, but it's a strange feeling. So she says, what goes around comes around. She murmurs it as she drifts off into the darkness that washes over her, right? So I'm reading this in the present tense, but the phrase saying is, what goes around comes around. She murmured as she drifted off into the darkness that washed over her. Some great words here with the past in the past tense, right? Listen to the ending of the ed. Murmured, murmured, drifted, drifted, and washed, washed. I didn't actually plan those out, but we actually have 3 different pronunciations for these words, right? So listen, murmured, that has the D sound, murmured. Drifted, that has the ed sound. We don't say murmured, we say murmured. But here with drift, we say drifted because it ends with T. And then we have washed, which actually has a T sound. So we have a T sound, a D sound, and an ed sound. So let's go back and take a look here for you to see that. Right? Murmured, murmured, drifted, and washed. This is a common mistake that I hear a lot of students making. So even advanced students, even English teachers. So make sure you pay attention to the endings of words so you speak them correctly, right? We'll have a word like murmured, but a lot of students will say murmured or washed, right? So there are rules for why this works this way. We're not going to go over them now, but we can talk about them in a later lesson. If you guys have questions about the endings of the pronunciations of the past tense, the verbs in the past tense, the simple past, and the conjugation and the pronunciation of the ed, and it's because of the final letter, right? So most words that end with T, you're going to pronounce ed at the end, right? Let's go take a look here at a word we saw earlier at the very beginning. This is cool because I did not plan this, but this actually played out very nicely. Wafted, right? So another word that ends with T, wafted, wafted. All right. So, and then we have it here at the very end. Another word with drifted has the same FT at the end. So when a word ends with the T sound, the pronunciation is going to be ed. All right. If it ends with the SH, the CH, or the X, it's going to be a D sound, washed, or sorry, the T sound, washed, right? Washed, watched. So you're not going to say the D sound like in murmured. You're going to say a T sound at the end as in wash. So just some tips there for your English pronunciation. All right, guys. So don't forget you can download the audio file here. Just click that. It will download the audio file. We have the video here so you can actually listen to it. and see the words in the video as you practice. This video is on YouTube, so you can actually, it's not loading up here right now. There we go. Okay. So you can actually listen to this story on YouTube. All right. And you can listen to it and read along with the story at the same time. So this video is on our YouTube channel. So feel free to watch it there, download it, practice as much as you need, repeat the phrases along with me. So what do I recommend that you do with stories like this? I'll give you some quick ideas. But first, let me see if there are any questions. Does anybody have any questions about the story or any of the resources before we continue on with talking about how to use the story? All right, no questions at the moment. Very good. So this is something that I like to call an integrated learning system. I've talked about it before. So I'm just going to mention it briefly here. We're not going to take a lot of time, but it is important. So you say, David, what can I do with these stories? Well, number one, you're going to read it, right? So read the story. Or actually, you know what? Better yet, what I like to do is listen to a story. So I talk about this a lot. Like when I was studying French, what I would do is I would take an audio and I would listen to the audio first to see how much I understood. It doesn't matter the order. You can mix it and match it, do it whatever order you want. You can do them all together. But this was a process that I liked. So first I would listen to the audio. I would listen to it 3 to 5 times to see how much I understood, right? So you're going to practice your listening. Develop your listening skills because many students read, study grammar, they learn words from the dictionary, but they don't practice their listening skill. It's like going to the gym, working out, you exercise your muscles. You see guys at the gym, they have big, huge arms, enormous, huge muscles, biceps, but their legs are really skinny. So they don't like exercising their legs. Same thing with your English. If you only read and study words in the dictionary, when it comes time to hear, watch a movie, listen to music, talk with people, you won't understand what they say, right? So that can be a problem if you don't practice your English enough. So developing your listening skills is important. Listen to the audio, see how much you understand just by listening. Oh, I understood 20%. I understood 50%. I understood 80%. So the more you listen to it, like you listen to it the first time, you might only understand 25%. So you listen to it again and you understand a little bit more, 35%. You listen to it again, you understand 50%. You say, okay, that's good. You know, you picked out some of the words. So then go through and actually read the text. Now that you've listened to it, read it, because usually reading is easier. When you see the words, you're like, oh, I know that word, right? But when you listen to all the words together, right? I don't want to go. You're like, what did he just say? But when you see it, I don't want to go, then you're like, that makes sense, right? So second phase, go through and read it. Now you might understand 60 to 75%, 80, 85, 90. So as you read, you'll pick out more of the words. Read through it 3 to 5 times, read through it and listen at the same time. So you associate what you hear with the words that you see, and you learn the pronunciation of those words. You learn how to say those words correctly. So you're practicing your reading, right? So listening and reading are part of the primary skills. We have 4 primary skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing, right? So listening and reading are passive abilities. When you listen, you don't have to formulate the phrase or think of the word to use. When you read, everything's already been created there. You just have to understand it. So these are passive. Writing and speaking are active abilities. So you actually have to think of the words, express yourself, think of how to write correctly. So those are harder. So we're going to leave those for later. Now we're going to go through, you've read your text, and you're going to learn the vocabulary. Focus on the vocabulary, right? What are the words that you didn't understand in the text? Different ways, words that you might not understand. First, you might not understand the word because you've never seen that word before. You're like, this is a brand new word. Great. Learn what it means. Look it up in the dictionary and the translator. See how it's used. Learn that word, right? Maybe it's a word that you've seen before, but it's different in this context, right? Like the word paw we saw in this story. We saw the word paw as like clumsily looking for something, grasping. So you know what that means now, but you hear it in another context. Oh, the dog's paw. And you say, what? How's the dog trying to clumsily grab something? No, paw is the hand or the foot of an animal, right? So let me just stop sharing the screen here so you can see me. So the paw is the hand or foot of the animal. So then you see the word that you know, but in a different context. Or maybe it's a word you've seen before, you know you've seen it, but you can't remember what it means. So I like to mark these words different ways. If it's a word that I don't know, I've never seen before, I highlight it yellow. If it's a word that I've seen before, but I don't understand it because it's in a different context, I make it bold. If it's a word that I know I've seen, I kind of understand it, but it's not real clear, I underline. So it doesn't matter what system you use, find a system that works for you, and then just use it systematically to study new vocabulary words. So a lot of times, what I like to do is read magazines. That was a way that I developed my Portuguese skill, was by reading magazines. So I would read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles, right? I would just underline the words. I didn't look them up immediately because that would take a lot of time. If I looked up every word, that could be, get kind of boring, frustrating. So I would read several articles. And because the articles in a magazine are usually related to a similar topic, right? You have magazines about your hobbies, chess, running, food, recipes, home, whatever you like magazines about. I read business magazines. So here in Brazil, we have a magazine called Veja. So I read that a lot. So a lot of times, since magazines have a similar theme, they use words frequently, the same words over and over in different contexts. So as I read several articles, I would learn what those words meant in different contexts. So when I went back, I would be like, oh, I know what that word means. I assimilated it implicitly through the use. So go back, look at the words again. If you still don't understand the word, then you can look it up in the dictionary and see what it means and actually learn that word that way. So that takes a little more time, and you can do that if you still don't understand the word, right? So let me go back to our screen here. Do whatever you need to do to learn. Where did now? How do I get? Okay, good. Oops, no. There we go. Good. I thought I was going to be able to get back there. Number 4. So learn the expressions, right? There are a lot of expressions. I like to separate vocabulary and expressions and leave them separate because for students, these are two different things, even though it's pretty much the same. But as a student, you can learn a word, but when you see that word in a phrase, it doesn't make sense, right? In a phrasal verb or an expression, an idiomatic expression, like I know this word, but this saying doesn't make sense. And because of collocations and the way words fit together, a lot of times you want to, hang on, we got a comment here from Thales Romão, who's saying, boa noite, tem algum jeito de aprender inglês rápido? Hello, Thales, good evening. Yes, Thales, it depends on what you mean. He's asking how to learn English fast. Let's go ahead and jump up here. Let me just switch over the screen because this is a question that a lot of students have. How do I learn English fast, right? Okay, so what happens is that Thalis, I don't know if we're going to be able to answer this question tonight, okay? The best way that I know is to learn all your skills together. There are techniques, there are tricks, there are methods, but basically, you need two things. You need to study and you need to practice, right? I tell my students there's no secrets. There's no secrets to learning English because I know a lot of students are looking for a magical method, a revolutionary new process. And unfortunately, nobody can insert a chip in your brain and make you start magically learning English. So you have to study and you have to practice. You have to speak. All right. So there are different techniques, different methods that you adapt to and you fit to better. There are some techniques for learning, but the best way that I've learned is using text and audio, practicing learning, and developing all these four skills that we're doing together. I know that's not the answer you probably wanted to hear, but the way to learn fast is to intensify your time. For example, I have English students, an average amount of time for an English student to learn English, relatively well, to speak and communicate well. And let's say a B2 level, maybe C1, would be 3 to 4 years, right? So that's an average amount of time for a student to learn. But I have had students come in. I had one student I remember who came in, and in 10 months, he started from the beginning, and in 10 months, he was in conversation classes. Why? Because he was very dedicated, very focused. He studied and practiced every single day. So the secret to learning English is you need contact time with the language, study time, practice time. So let's say, for example, one person, I'm going to pick a student named Joe and another student named Bob, right? Or Mary. Let's say Mary. So Joe studies 2 hours every single day, right? Or better yet, 8 hours every day. He doesn't work, he just studies 8 hours every day. And Mary, person number two, comes in and she studies 15 minutes once a week. Who's going to learn faster? Huh? Joe, obviously, right? Because he's studying every day, all day. So the more time you study, the better you can learn. The important thing is to develop all of your skills simultaneously, because I made a lot of students, not students, but like doctors and internet technicians. They read massive technical manuals and understand everything. They understand text that I don't understand. All right. Because they studied the meanings of those words. So a doctor can read an entire manual in English and understand everything perfectly, even though I'm a native speaker, but I don't understand it using all those medical, technical vocabulary words. But if it comes time to speak a normal dialogue, a conversation, a doctor can't always speak. Even though he understands what he reads, he has trouble speaking. So you have to develop all these skills simultaneously, right? So let's go back to our screen. That's why I say it's important to develop all these skills together simultaneously, right? So as you study the expressions, learn how those words are used together, learn the expressions is very important. Then focus on the grammar. And by grammar, I just mean the sentence structures, right? I know we're going longer than I planned to, because I didn't plan on telling you all this, but I think it's important. It's a good question. So we're going to talk about it briefly. So by grammar, I mean the sentence structures. As you read, as you see those words, how they're used, right? In Portuguese, we say o pássaro azul, right? The bird blue. But in English, we say the blue bird. So Brazilian English students look at the sentence and say, oh, the sentence is backwards, right? It's not backwards. It's just that the language structures are different. Portuguese and French are very similar in sentence structures. English and let's say German are aren't so similar, but they come from the same background, so they're a little more similar, right? Whereas some language like Chinese or Arabic would probably be completely different. I've never studied Chinese and I've never studied Arabic, but I imagine they are very different language structures. But that's what I mean by sentence structure. I don't necessarily mean you have to go study the grammar rules. Important when you're more advanced, but like small children, right? Children, parents, like I'm a father, I have 2 kids. I didn't sit my kids down when they were babies and say, okay, my daughter, this is how we conjugate the verb to be, right? This is how we conjugate the verb run. Parents don't teach their kids grammar. Kids listen, they practice and speak, they make mistakes, their mother corrects them, and then with each correction, they begin speaking in better and better. When do kids study grammar? When they go to school, right? They go to school, then they learn how to read and write, and then they start studying grammar. So most of the grammar you know from your mother tongue, you know implicitly. You know how to use it by speaking, not because you necessarily sat down to study it and you can speak well. Then we study grammar to learn how to speak better, right? More correctly. So grammar is good. Grammar is important. But what happens is with a lot of students that I see is that they focus on grammar in the beginning too much. And then what happens is everything they say, they want to say it correctly, which is good, right? It's important to speak correctly. But English students get so worried about speaking correctly that they don't want to speak, right? I remember one time I had somebody come and said, hey, David, I'm working at the university. My area is one area, but they want me to teach English because I'm the one who knows the most, right? So I was like, okay, let's do an English test. Let's do a quick test and see how your English is. So I asked her a question and she went like this, asked me to pause, and she put her head down and it took her like a minute. She thought, I think she was processing what I was saying to understand it, translating everything in her head. And then she thought of what she wanted to say. And then she remembered all the grammar rules, formulated her sentence in her head, and then spoke, right? This took her like 1 or 2 minutes. It took her a long time to think of her phrase because she wanted to put everything perfectly. Now, I have other English students who've been studying a few months. They make a lot of mistakes, but they speak a lot. Everything they learn, they want to speak and practice and try and use. So when I teach a story in class and I say, who wants to retell the story? I remember one time, for example, this is a great illustration. One student who was like the best student in the class, he had studied English before. He said, oh, let me try. So he stood up. This was like one of the first times I was learning how to teach with stories. He stood up, went to the front of the class, and he said, he started to tell the story and he was thinking about all the rules and he got frustrated. He said, no, teacher, this is too hard. Let me sit down. So another student who had just started and who had never studied English before said, oh, I want to try. His name was Leo. So he stood up, he came to the front of the class and he told the story, retold the story in his own words, right? Lots of mistakes. He didn't conjugate the verbs correctly. A lot of words were out of order, but he told the story from beginning to end with mistakes, but he was trying, he was practicing communicating. So a lot of times, the thing with grammar is if you study a lot of grammar, when you speak, you try to think of all the rules and you want to be perfect, and then you don't speak and you give up. Whereas if you focus on the speaking and develop the skill, remember, each of these skills is important. So you have to practice, study grammar, and you have to practice speaking, because a lot of students focus on reading and grammar and they don't worry about the other skills like speaking and listening, which is where you have trouble later. So you have to develop all of these skills together, right? That's why I call it an integrated learning approach. So going back to our integrated learning approach, right? So give you an example of grammar. I remember I was studying French. One of the resources that I would use a lot was the Bible, right? I normally read the Bible in English, so I started reading it in French. And I remember I was in Genesis chapter 4, where Cain killed his brother Abel. And so the word kill was used many times. Cain went out to kill his brother. He killed his brother. God asked him, why did you kill your brother? Did you kill, right? You notice how those conjugations are used there. So in French, I just started learning, and I was like, okay, this word, I think it was like doit, douate. It was like I saw the similar word, but it was a little bit different each time. I said, this must be a verb being conjugated different ways. So I went and looked it up, and that's what it was. It was the verb to kill conjugated. So then I went to Google and I looked up how to conjugate that verb. So that's a good way to learn English grammar, right? As you're learning, you have a question, go research it, look it up. Okay? That's a good way to learn grammar, because as you need it, as it pops up, study it, learn it, practice it, use it. If you just study grammar and don't use it, it's like reading a book about how to ride a bicycle, right? Or reading a book about how to drive a car. It's good for the theory, but then you have to go out and practice. So the same thing with English. If you learn something in grammar, practice it. Good. Number 6, and that's what you can do with this process. So number 6 here, go ahead and practice your pronunciation. David, how do I practice my pronunciation? Very easy. You take let me go ahead and pop up a new VLC download. This is a great app I'm going to show you. Let me just wait for it to pop up here, and then I will flip the screen over for you to see. This is a great audio app to practice your English. So there we go. Can you see that on your screen? All right, VLC, Video LAN Organization. It's a free app that you can download and listen to audio. Why? Because you have 2 very important tools. Number 1, you have an A/B looper, right? So you're listening to a long audio and you want to focus on one sentence. So you listen till you come to one point where you want to start, and you click the button A. It'll play, and when it comes to the end of that sentence, you click the button again, point B, and it'll loop just that sentence for you to listen to over and over, and you can repeat along with it. Number 2, you can slow the audio down 80%, 70%. So you can make the audio slower so that you understand it better. Does that make sense? All right, so 2 very good tools. You can use this app, Video LAN, VLC, to practice English. I think there's other good audio tools, but this is the one I use. I like it, so that's why I recommend it. And it's free, so can't beat the price, right? But anyways, going back to practicing your pronunciation, when you practice your pronunciation, just listen to the audio, hear how that sentence is said, pause it, you repeat it, then go back, right? You've got it on A/B loop, so you can go back and listen to it again. So you go back and listen to that same phrase again, and you hear what you said wrong, and then you pause it and you repeat it again. So just pause, listen, repeat, and then practice. And each time, correct your pronunciation and try to say it better. Example, in Portuguese, one word that I went years saying wrong because I never paid attention to it was the letter E in Portuguese. So, for example, one word that I spoke incorrectly was leão, which is lion. And I said leão, right? So I would pull the E out too long. And so after like 15 years of studying English, one day in class, the students were like, teacher, that word's not right. You got to say it like this. So, and I was like, oh, as I paid attention to the sound, the pronunciation, then I could practice my pronunciation to say it correctly. All right. Good, good, good. Any questions there? If not, let's continue on. Let's go back to our handy dandy whiteboard. And so practice your pronunciation. Then, number 7, go through and practice your writing. David, how do you do writing? You do that with a transcription. Transcription. I can't type and speak at the same time. So, a transcription, you don't have to do it right then when you're studying. You can put the text aside. The next day, come back, and the first thing I would do before I looked at the text or listened to the audio again, I would put it on and I would do a transcription. I would listen to the audio slowly, right? I would slow it down to 80% and put a phrase or a couple phrases on A/B loop, and I would listen to it and I would try to transcribe it, pause it, write, listen, write, listen, write. And then after I did several sentences or a paragraph, I would go back and correct myself, right? This is important because the feedback you give yourself is how you learn. Then you see, oh, I didn't understand that phrase correctly, or I spelled this word incorrectly. So transcribing your text does several things. Number one, it improves your listening because you see what you weren't understanding. Number two, it helps your writing and especially your spelling because you learn to write correctly. And finally, number 8 is where you're going to practice your speaking because you're going to take your text, the story, whatever you were studying, and go out and talk with someone about it. You can retell them what you learned. You can discuss it with them. So you can take, all you need is the audio and the transcript. You need like an MP3 file that you can listen to in the text. If you have those two things, you can learn lots of English and develop all 8 of these skills. So remember your passive skills, primary skills, which are listening and reading, and writing and speaking, which are also primary skills, but these are active. And then you also practice all of your sub skills as well, vocabulary and expressions, grammar, and pronunciation. So this is a great way you can use these audio stories here that we've got for you to learn and develop all the skills you need in English. So you can use these videos with the mini stories. You've got the text here as well, and you have the MP3 audio that you can listen to if you prefer. If you're not in front of your computer, you can put it on your cell phone, put it in your car, listen to it wherever you're at to practice your English. All right, everybody. I see that there are people still here watching the webinar with us. Thank you very much. I know we went longer than we thought. And like I said, this is our very first, my very first hosting experience on Zoom. So I know we can improve a lot. Make sure to give me your feedback, leave a comment, tell me what you would like us to do. Hey, David, don't spend so long on the story. Read the story quickly or explain more words or ask questions, so you guys leave me your feedback about how you think we can improve these English lessons. We will be doing more English lessons live. I think this is going to be fun. I'm going to keep writing these stories and posting them here on my Patreon. I'm not going to do it on my blog because there's a reason why. If I post them on my blog, then they are considered first use on my blog. What happens is I'm going to submit some of these stories to like magazines or compilations, anthologies. And if I post them on my blog and they're out available to the general public, and then some magazines might not accept them. So you guys are going to be like my beta readers, okay? You're going to be like, when I write a story, you read it, give me your feedback. I can edit it, make corrections before publishing it in a magazine, in a book, in a compilation, an anthology, or whatever. So, all right. So I'll be sharing them here on my Patreon page. You will have to probably, I'm not sure exactly how Patreon works exactly because we have a couple of different options. So let me just show you. How can I do this here? Because I'm in my, let's see if you see my profile. Let me show you what you would see because I want to show you how you can follow through on these options. We have a couple of different options where you can follow us, you can sponsor us, and there's an important part here where you can follow us even if you don't sponsor us, because Patreon is about sponsoring, which is great. If you sponsor us, I will appreciate that. I'm just may just have to log out here. So let me just go ahead and come on. There we go. I'll just log out and show you what this looks like on what you'll see. Okay, so if you come to, here we go. Got to be patient. The internet's kind of slow tonight. We're sucking up a lot of bandwidth with our webinar. All right, this is taking too long. So let me try just doing this manually. Patreon.com/Dave Bailey Me. That is my handle on almost all social media. Right, Dave Bailey Me on Twitter, at Dave Bailey Me on Facebook, at Dave Bailey Me on Instagram. So that's also my blog, davebailey.me. Anyways, here you go. Just come to Patreon. You'll see my page, patreon.com/Dave Bailey Me. And you can click the follow button so you'll be updated when I post new things. All right. Then, of course, we also have sponsors here. If you want to sponsor us for $1, you'll get extra writings and the recordings. You'll also get my RSS feed for audio. So you'll be able to download the audio files automatically in your RSS if you have like a podcast reader or something. And for beta readers and fans who sponsored us at a higher level, you will get early access to stories and some extra stuff. So we have a couple of different levels. I have been posting things here behind the scenes, English lessons, teach stuff for teachers, short reads, books. And most of the writing that I do every day when I write, I post it here on Patreon first. So this is where I post it. You can follow us or sponsor us. You can read it, give us feedback. Everything you do, even if you just follow along and read, is greatly appreciated, giving us your feedback. And that way, when I edit and make changes or corrections, because yes, I do make a lot of mistakes. So I always go back through, I do editing myself. I use Grammarly. I use different editing tools. And then before I actually record the audio, even when I'm recording the audio, sometimes I find mistakes. So it's just a process of perfecting the story and making it better. So you guys can participate with me as well. And then when we publish it in magazines or online in other places, it'll be perfect. All right. And you guys will have helped with that. So that's where you can keep up with us, and we will be doing more lives. Also, I will be publishing here on Patreon my schedule for lives when we do more Zoom sessions. So I do look forward to seeing you guys here with us in future upcoming lessons. So if you're watching this later, you're watching the recording, make sure to come here, follow us. That way you get the updates when we schedule new Zoom classes, and you can participate in the follow-up lessons along with us. I will be traveling at the beginning part of next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we probably won't actually have another live session until the end of the week, maybe Thursday or Friday when I get to my destination and settle down. But I will continue writing. I will continue posting here as much as possible during these days. So let's keep in touch. Make sure you follow me here on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Dave Bailey Me. You can communicate with us that way. Send us messages, chat. If you have questions about stories, questions about improving your English, let me know. I look forward to helping you. I really enjoyed doing this Zoom webinar here. I appreciate you hanging out with us. Thank you very much. And I will talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.